Hello, Michael. Hello. How are you?
Hello. I'm wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing in the moment. I should just explain a little bit. 1 second, because
I'm wonderful. How are you doing?
okej. Moi drodzy, witam Was serdecznie na kanale Miasto Miasto. Dzisiaj mamy jakby nową formułę, którą rozpoczynamy tak naprawdę od tego razu. Jest nasze pierwsze wystąpienie na żywo na live'ie. Ja Was serdecznie pozdrawiam. 2 słowa o tym, dlaczego tu się spotykamy. Tak jak wiecie, ponad rok temu rozpocząłem na kanale Miasto Miasto generalnie pokazywanie zarówno strategii, technologii, które mają szansę zmieniać polskie miasta. W ramach projektu Blockchain City, który w międzyczasie wspólnie z Mińskiem Mazowieckim uruchomiliśmy, czyli żywym laboratorium technologii blockchainowych, stwierdziliśmy, że warto również pokazywać dobre przykłady z całego świata. Stąd też nasz dzisiejszy live oraz nasz pierwszy gość. Nasza rozmowa z Mike'em będzie w języku angielskim, więc pozwólcie, przełączę się na język angielski. Hello, Michael.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for the invitation, because you got the invitation and you agreed to just to speak with me online. That is short interview. I'm so appreciate for your time, because as you know, I think that we met over 5 years ago in Lublin. I remember the event organized by Sebastian Grabowski in Lublin. You took a part of it. It was right. 4 years ago.
I think 5 is right. Although, to be honest with you, with COVID, I've kind of lost track of time.
Yes, that it was a time that I first time met organization Leading City. Michael, you are the president and CEO of Leading City. In my opinion, one of the most powerful organizations worldwide, which is working with different city. It depends on the size, of course, and sort of the city. However, you are working with many different cities, as well as the different startup with different technology. Can you introduce yourself?
Well, sure. As you said, my name is Michael Lake, and I am the president and CEO of Leading Cities. I founded this nonprofit organization. This will be our 15th year. So we were a real pioneer in kind of the smart cities space at those early days. And the industry has come a long way, but the truth is there's still a long way to go. And Leading Cities has transitioned over time. We now run one of the largest GovTech focused accelerators in the world. Last year alone, we started with 554 startups from 70 different countries. So it's truly a global effort. And some of these solutions that come through this program are amazing. I mean, how they're changing lives in communities around the world. So Leading Cities is excited to be the leader in this ecosystem, to bring stakeholders together, from cities to startups to investors to experts, because that's what makes the opportunity to make our cities more sustainable, more resilient, more equitable possible.
Michael, that it is in fact my first question, because the one of the prerequisite is that we should be able to finish our interview within 20 minutes. My first question to you, because you are collaborating with many different cities worldwide. And I know that maybe this question is very simple. However, in order to understand your perspective as well as the global perspective of the cities, what are the biggest or hottest challenges in front of the cities around the world?
So, I just kind of touched on them, at least from my perspective. The biggest challenges are around sustainability, resiliency, and equity. And the reason I say that, those are like the 3 cornerstones of any community. The 4th being governance, in my opinion. So on that foundation, everything else is dependent. So we talk about, and we're very much aware, I think, these days of the threats of climate change. I mean, we've heard the rhetoric around it, talking about it, the greatest threat to humanity. Well, you cannot solve an issue, a global issue like climate change, without cities. Cities occupy 3% of the land on Earth. And imagine if you made 97% of the rest of the world carbon neutral, and you just had the carbon emissions from cities, we'd still have 70% of the world's carbon being emitted every year. So cities are integral parts of these global solutions. It's no longer, cities are no longer just local issues. They transcend into the global space. And I'm excited to see that mayors around the world have stepped up and have really taken, this responsibility that they have very seriously. And I will say it affects local issues as well. And this is where resiliency comes in. It's not just the resiliency of humanity, but the resiliency of communities. 95% of the world's major cities are coastal communities. Sea level rise is a threat to every one of them. You have to be resilient against that. In the world of technology, and oftentimes people will say that smart cities are all about technology. That's not true. And I can give examples of high tech, but also no or even low tech solutions that are making our cities smarter or more resilient, more sustainable, more equitable. But the thing is, technology is a huge part of this evolution of cities. And with that comes new threats. I mean, the threat of cyber attacks. In the United States alone, more than 70% of annual cyber attacks are focused on state and local governments. So we really do need to be resilient at the community level too. I'm not saying that cities don't have that local responsibility. And certainly where the rubber meets the road around equity is in every neighborhood. Whether people have access to affordable housing or high quality education or transportation, all of those things are the building blocks for a more equitable society. And that is the responsibility of state and local governments. So I don't envy mayors and their staffs, because they have huge challenges from the very local all the way to the global. Sebastian, I'm sorry, but I think you're on mute.
I also appreciate, this is my first live. Mike, because you mentioned about, I think that three or two important words I've just meeting very often. There is this sustainability, resilience, etc. I remember 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we spoke about the smart city. On the other hand, I think that since this moment, the smart city has completely changed as a definition. Do you think smart city is still valid, or there is only buzzword that people just repeating just to express that they are doing something fancy or something according to some mainstream? What do you think about it? Because now I'm just discussing about the resilience and climate change, for instance. And what do you think about it?
I think this is a fabulous question. So I'll be honest with you. We use the terminology at Leading Cities, smart city, a lot. And that's because it took, 10 years or more for the world to adopt it as a term. And so now we're running with it. The truth is, I actually hate the term.
Me too, by the way.
Yeah, it's not about smart, and it's not. It's not about smart being intellectual. It's not about smart referring to technology or just about that. It's not about cities. It's about towns and villages as well. So neither word actually captures what this really is. And here's the way I always talk about it. The concept, the phrase smart city is a couple decades old, and IBM is usually credited in coining the phrase. The truth is, the concept that lays behind it is as old as cities themselves. And the example I always use is, think about Romans building aqueducts to bring fresh water into their cities. That was a smart city solution of its time, right? And there's, every generation has these types of solutions, these innovations. What the concept is really talking about, no matter what phrase we use to describe it, is it's all about the evolution of cities. And in the 21st century, cities are going through a major evolution. And it's not surprising that so many solutions are technologically driven, because we're facing the greatest technological advancement in human history. So yes, That's definitely a part of this evolution, this chapter of city evolution. But it's not limited to that. I mean, I can use an example. There's a company here in the US called Pearls Premium Grass Seed. There is absolutely no technology. I mean, there's science behind it, of course, but it's grass seed. It's nothing but grass seed. But it's grass seed that instead of growing just a few inch roots, it grows 4 to 6 foot roots. And why is that important? Because it uses 75% less water. It uses less energy. It emits less carbon in terms of all of the lawnmowers that don't have to be used as frequently, because this is my favorite part of it, and why it's in my lawn around my house is because instead of having to mow the lawn once a week, you have to do it once a month. But think of how many lawnmowers are not being used as a result. And by the way, lawnmowers, because they don't have a catalytic converter, emit 13 more times more carbon than a car, comparatively. That's just grass seed. And by the way, it sequesters up to 24 times more carbon than regular grass. So it's actually more effective at carbon sequestration than a tree. All that to be said, grass is hated around the world because traditional grass consumes so much water. It does not have a positive effect on the environment. Anyways, all that being said, that's something that's just been developed. But on the other side, you have amazing technologies. I mean, imagine all the waste, solid waste that's produced, the trash, the garbage. Oh, you're on mute again.
1 second, because it will be my another question. I'm just go back to my previous stage. Mike, I think that you are touching the point, the general intelligence, whether it will be the human intelligence or that a technology which is using intelligence, but general is just the way how to use intelligence to improve our life we live in. That is that probably this part is finishing my question about the general smart city. Can you advise us? Because we have many fans. They are mayors in small, even medium villages, small cities in Poland. Can you advise what they should do, how they should perform just to meet those goals or the near future that probably going to happen in the moment? What they should do just to be ready for the life which is just waiting for them.
Well, in terms of life, you're talking about the challenges that we're facing?
About the challenges, yes, about the challenges, climate change, resilience, the cybersecurity threats, etc. I'm thinking about those main points that you addressed in the previous part of your sentence.
Sure. I think when it comes to the average person, for instance, I think so many of us are trying to figure, what can I do to better help or fight climate change? And the grass seed that I was just talking about is a perfect way. And just to give you a sense, and I don't want to keep harping on this, but I like it because it's a no tech and easy solution for anybody to use. If you did 1/3 of the lawns in the United States with this grass seed, it would have the carbon offset equivalent of removing every vehicle, every car and truck in the road in the United States of America. I mean, that's a huge carbon footprint that you're eliminating. So there's something we can do as individuals. In terms of community leaders, I think there's a lot that needs to be done, both in terms of increasing our awareness of the solutions that are out there, as well as our confidence in choosing the best solutions for our community. But it's also about preparedness. So I co-chaired the task force for the World Economic Forum and on behalf of the G20 Global Smart City Alliance. And one of the policies we created was around cybersecurity, a governance model, but also a resilience model. And the thing is, community leaders have to be thinking about that level of resilience. It's not just about being resilient against the weather. And many cities have protected themselves based on the climates they're in. But now we have to think about how we protect ourselves from cyber attacks, as a modern example. Cities can do it. Leaders are well positioned for it. I think the biggest challenge is building that awareness in the solutions that exist, while also building the confidence in choosing the best ones for their locality. So in terms of equity, I think that a lot of the equity issues are probably more related to policy than they are to hardware or software. But still, city leaders have to step into that role as thinking of themselves and their community as a place for equity, not just a place for equality. And there's a difference between the two, right?
Mm-hmm. Mike, can you just name some key technologies that you just see as those most perspective for the future, which are solving real problems, tackle some cases, and probably will be the most powerful soon?
I mean, there's so many, to be honest with you. I'll give you a sampling. I mentioned Pearls Premium, which is grass seed, right? But one of the biggest carbon emitters in the world is around construction and the use of cement and concrete. There's a company out there called Carbon Limit, and it is actually sequestering carbon, creating an additive for cement and concrete that not only makes it stronger, but it reduces the cost, it reduces the carbon emissions, and it turns it into essentially a sponge, a living sponge, an ongoing sponge for this carbon sequestration. You have a company like Automedi, which was last year's champion of our Acela City program. That's the Global Smart City Accelerator, or GovTech Accelerator, whatever term you want to use. And they actually, as you probably know, only between 5 and, being generous, 9% of plastic is actually recycled. They take plastic right at the source, have mini processing plants that produce a plastic filament that you can put right directly into a 3D printing vending machine. And so you can literally turn your plastic bags, your plastic bottles, your medicine bottles into 3D printed objects. So it's a totally circular solution. And then you have the higher tech solutions like Run With It Synthetics, which is creating essentially digital twins of cities, allowing city leaders to run all kinds of situations in their community to predict and analyze the potential ramifications or responses, etc. So it allows cities to address concerns and threats of the future in advance. So those are just a few. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
Mike, because thank you very much. What is, I think, that what really surprised me, that you didn't mention about the data, about artificial intelligence, those buzzwords that are around the world. They are just appearing in each kind of social media I get. I see only chat, only AI, etc. That is really surprised me. What do you think about this exactly? Those, sorry for that, but I'm just calling the buzzwords AI. AI will just solve some cases, or it will just help, or not?
Well, truth is, probably the reason I didn't mention it is because there's still so many questions in most cities about it, and a lot of it depends on policy. So I did steer clear of that because I do think that there needs to be policies in place first, but there's huge opportunity. Once we understand, data privacy, data ownership, all of these kind of things that I'm referring to needing policy for, I think once that governance model is in place, that's going to open the world. I mean, just looking at blockchain solutions. I mean, digital.
Yes. This topic we should a little bit, extend, because in fact, as a part of the blockchain city, we are meeting together. Yes.
Exactly. And I mean, the possibility of digital IDs or increasing digital services offered by cities, digital records. I mean, talk about digital services. I'm going to step back 1 second. I know we're probably getting to the end here, so forgive me. But I mean, up until the pandemic, I think smart cities, whatever we feel about the term, most cities thought smart city solutions were nice to haves, like the cherry on top. They weren't priorities. But because of the pandemic, I think these technological advancements, and I'm specifically referring to digital services, although it goes way beyond that, became must-haves. I mean, in a community that relies on permitting process to fill out a paper application, to hand it to somebody at City Hall, for that person to walk it over to somebody else, for that, you know, a very human, tangible process. It worked great for decades, centuries. But as soon as you have to shut down City Hall for months at a time, the process stopped. So effectively, it stopped, brought a halt to the entire construction industry, simply because, and by the way, that's not just the fact that buildings aren't being built and homes aren't being renovated. People aren't going to work. They're not collecting paychecks. I mean, this has a huge ramification, a ripple effect, all because cities had not upgraded to digital services where the permitting process could have been done simply online. You didn't need anybody at City Hall or physically in City Hall. So that's why I want to talk about the opportunities, but it goes beyond that. It's digital record keeping. It's digital access and literacy, coming back to the equity piece. Like, it's great to move these services to the digital realm. But if your citizenry doesn't have access to them or doesn't know how to use them, that's another challenge. So all of this comes together. And by the way, the more we can do online, the less we're driving our vehicles, you know, a mile or two to City Hall to wait there, and some people leaving their car idling, you know, while the husband or wife runs inside City Hall and stands in line. I mean, we know how this goes. This is not helping the environment either. So just by utilizing technologies like blockchain, we can tackle resiliency, equity, and sustainability.
Mike, thank you very much. I think that our discussion brings us to the end. Thank you very much, Michael. I would like to just, as the end of our discussion, I'm just sending, in fact, greetings to Mińsk Mazowiecki, especially to my younger colleagues from Zespół Szkół Zawodowych numer 2. That's because those guys are committed to this initiative. I believe that thanks to as well this talk, they just got some knowledge about the smart city direction. Thank you very much, Michael, for your time. I wish you all the best, and soon I hope we're gonna meet. Thank you very much.
Just one last thing.
Of course.
I want to wish you a very happy birthday.
Ah, yes, thank you very much. Yes, that's I'm more than a little bit, you know, that's, in fact, I counted my years when I was younger. Now I treat it as a normal way, you know. However, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Well, it's a special day. This is when a leader in the blockchain and smart city world was born.
Thank you very much, Michael. I hope that in the moment I will celebrate, because the good thing as well that my son, he has the birthday exactly in my day, that both of you celebrate today our birthdays, you know.
Well, happy birthday to him as well.
Thank you very much, and see you soon, Michael. And I wish you all the best. All your dreams came true, especially in the smart city or city domain. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.